As we head out of Labor Day weekend, the unofficial end of summer, it's the perfect time to pause for a check-in on the market and what we see coming this fall and beyond. Welcome back to Navellier Market Buzz. So, Dad, let's take a closer look at the rest of 2025. What are you expecting for the month of September?
Yeah, Labor Day weekend's a great time to reflect on what's happened. It's been an amazing year. Obviously, we got off to a good start, stalled briefly in April, and then just had an incredible historic rally. And it was topped off by not only another quarter of double-digit earnings increases, but the strongest earnings surprises that Ed Yardeni ever recorded in the last 39 years. So obviously we have a lot of optimism looking out for the rest of the year. There are several things that has me optimistic. First is obviously the Fed is going to join the party, cut interest rates. That was telegraphed at Jackson Hole. President Trump is still rejiggering the Federal Reserve Board with trying to oust Lisa Cook. He's doing that because he wants more rate cuts from beyond September. And so we are looking at 3 to 4 rate cuts. We'll have clarification on that with the Fed's dot plot in mid-September. But the main thing that we have to look forward to is consumer spending improving as the Fed cuts interest rates. Consumers have been very, very cautious. And I certainly hope that allows the breadth and power of the market to expand. The main thing everybody should realize is that as I speak to you right now, it's a seasonally weak period of time. The markets are seasonally weak till September 15th. And then after that, they'll firm up. Of course, we'll get a Fed rate cut on September 17th. And I'm expecting a very impressive quarter in window dressing in the second half of September. Then as we enter October, it's a strong seasonal month, but all the strength is in the second half of the month. So there might be a bit of a lull first half of October, but then we start to pick up as earnings come out. There's something else happening in October that's historic, and that is Russell is going to start doing another mid-year alignment, and they've never done that. They've always done their alignments in June. But they start leaking the list out a few weeks before. So in late October, we'll start getting preliminary lists for additions to the Russell 1000, 2000 indices. And that list will be refined every week until later in November. And then, of course, that should trigger a huge small cap rally. The other thing you got to realize is November's a very good month for small caps. It's seasonally strong. And the traditional period is we rally going into Thanksgiving. And then after that, there might be some tax selling in December. But then I expect a nice year-end rally later in the month. I think people have to realize that holidays are a happy time of year. That's why we rally going to Labor Day weekend. That's why we rally going to Thanksgiving and the holidays. So I'm expecting to finish the year with a bang. When we get an early January effect in November, that often triggers a bigger January effect in the new year. And I think the other thing we all have to reflect on is because of the tariffs, we are getting a lot more revenue. And they're using that to try to reduce the federal government's budget deficit. So that's going to take some pressure off of the Treasury yields. And that's a very, very good development. That was the whole design of these tariffs. Well, one was to tax the underground economy because a lot of Americans don't pay any taxes. And the second was to, get some new revenue and also start to reduce income taxes. We did not have a income tax till 1917. Before that, tariffs paid everything. So this is Howard Lutnick's vision. He's our Commerce Secretary. And so I'm very excited. We do want more rate cuts after September. The other thing that's going on is that this tariff revenue we're getting is going to help reduce the federal government's budget deficit. That was the whole intent of it, also reduce income tax. Please remember that before 1917, we didn't have an income tax. We just had tariffs. So this is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's vision, and we're and we're going to see if it can come to fruition. As far as the inflation front is concerned, we have to be very, very careful as always, but it sure looks like the housing component of inflation has fizzled. Homes are not appreciating anymore, according to the median home data. Furthermore, you can't sell a home in much of the United States unless you discount it. And of course, some of the hottest real estate markets, Florida, Texas, are now soft. So I'm very, very comfortable and confident that what we call the shelter cost component, which is derived from rental prices, is going to continue to cool off, and then inflation will fizzle. We also are expecting a strong dollar. The dollar is based on our economy versus other economies, our deficit compared to other economies. Even though we have a big deficit, we're nowhere near as bad as Japan and Brazil and some other countries. So we stack up pretty good there. And then finally, it's all about our rates relative to everybody else. And we are the last country to cut rates. So that should give us the strongest currency. That appreciation of the dollar should help offset a lot of the negative tariff impact.
So, what should the everyday investor take away from where the market stands today?
Well, the market's been shockingly narrow. It's been mostly AI related. And whether it's Navellier and all the customers, or all the data centers and the explosion and producing more electricity, that's been mostly through natural gas. And there's a domestic boom in natural gas and also LNG shipments, but pipelines midstream are doing very good. We just need the consumer to join the party. The consumer has been erratic and sporadic. And as you know, consumers love sales. We have innovative retailers in America, Amazon, Costco, Walmart, and it's just up to them to entice everybody back. Food inflation is a bit of a problem. And, we have the lowest cattle herds in decades. People are switching more and more to chicken. And, but, food inflation is a bit of an issue right now. But it's just time for consumers to cheer up. The holidays are a happy time of year. Everyone loves the fall. It's been a hot, miserable summer for a lot of folks. I'm here in Florida, and it feels like fall. So if Florida feels like fall, it's coming for all the United States, and people just love this time of year.
So, how can people best position themselves as we head into the final stretch of the year?
Well, that's why you have to use our stock grader. We have links below for you to use it. Log in and key your portfolio in, and you can save it, and then it's updated every week automatically. The whole point of stock grader is to empower you. I've written, my first book was to introduce stock grader. My second book was just to give you a lot more details on the idiosyncrasies of the markets and things I've learned in over 4 decades. But, if you start using stock grader, you're going to start selling good stocks by better stocks. The one comment I'd have this year is that the fundamental grade we have is a little bit more important than the quantitative grade. They both work. They both decay in an orderly, predictable manner. But if I had a stock with a good quantitative grade and a poor fundamental grade, I wouldn't want to buy it. So make sure your stocks score good under both our criteria, an A and B in quant, an A and B in fundamentals, and you'll outperform everybody.
Can you share some stocks with us that are on your radar?
Sure. Well, I should just reiterate what my core holdings are. The first, of course, is Navellier. It's over 16% of some of our portfolios. It is a monopoly, a $4 trillion company. It's bigger than the entire stock market of Britain, France, and or Germany. It's an amazing company. It's a monopoly. I wrote articles in MarketWatch that citing how Navellier should be held to the end of the decade because it has 2 more reiterations of its chip that it's introducing. And after that, there'll be a switch to quantum computing. But yeah, Navellier is your first core holding. Palantir Technologies is a great buy near term. It was attacked by short sellers. It's consolidated. It's a good near-term buy. So I really like Palantir because they're applying AI and profiting from it. They're mostly helping redo the government, to be candid with you, the Defense Department, the CIA, the NSA. And Palantir's a very good stock, also a mini monopoly. When we get outside of the pure AI, we go straight to the data center companies, the companies building out the grid. And we did a short video on this, but one I did neglect to mention was Argon, that's AGX. And then we have Power Solutions, which is PSIX. And then we have the big ones, which is, of course, MCore, Comfort Systems, that's FIX. And then finally, Quant Services, PWR. They're all building out the grid. The data center boom is everywhere. It's in Boise. We had Paul DeLucia on. It's in Reno. It's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And what's happening is data centers go to wherever there's fast internet and cheap electricity. And so that's where the boom is. And obviously, they're restarting 3 Mile Island to get nuclear energy for Microsoft's Azure cloud. So those are our core holdings. As we go into the consumer stocks, Walmart did miss, but it's still a very well company and had pretty good guidance. We really do like Costco. Their same store sales are amazing. Costco is a luxury retailer. It's not a retailer for the masses. It's basically a luxury retailer. We like them. Amazon is not in my portfolios. Your mom owns it in her personal account, but I'm keeping a good eye on it. I will tell you, Amazon's a lot better run than it used to be. But hopefully, all these innovative retailers are going to help keep inflation down. The main thing in retail is to sell direct and try to avoid the storefront as much as possible. It makes retail and warehousing much more efficient. One of the interesting things we're going to get we have it now, but we're going to get more of it next year, is the self-driving cars. Right now, Waymo is expanding throughout the United States. We have the Tesla is down in the self-driving car business, but the big one is going to be Uber. And Uber is going to be using the ID Buzz vans. They're going to start them in Los Angeles and expand. We have a company called HSAI. They make the LiDAR sensors. They are very necessary for the Waymo system and the Uber system with the ID Buzz van. LiDAR sees heat, okay? So if anything that's warm-blooded is in front of you, a bird, a dog, a human, an animal, the vehicle will stop. And we have a home high in the Sierra, and we need LiDAR out there so we don't hit the bear or deer and all the other critters that are running around our house eating the fruit from our trees. And what's interesting is HSAI is definitely a monopoly on this right now. I do think that Uber is going to be the big winner long term. I haven't bought it yet in client portfolios because Uber is using the best Chinese technology in China. They'll be using the best technology here in America. So no matter who wins, Uber's got the best distribution channel with their software and all. So I think Uber will win the self-driving car race.
Now let's end on some subscriber questions. One of our subscribers wants to know, Powell said 100 points closer to neutral, not 100 points away from neutral. So what rate does he think is neutral?
Oh, it's 3.5%. We're 4.5% now. So we'll be at 4.25% after September 17th. And we should get 3 more rate cuts till we're at 3.5%, which is a neutral rate.
And what do you think about ISSC?
I recommend that stock. They make all kinds of aviation components. Aviation's pretty hot. I have other aviation stocks that make titanium, Helmet Aerospace, Carpenter Resources. So Helmet is HWM. Carpenter Resources is CRS. I like my aerospace stocks, but ISC controls the cockpit, and they make key components everybody needs.
And could you talk a little bit about CLS and ERJ?
Sure. CLS is Celestica. That's a very good stock. It's still super highly ranked. ERJ is Embarcadero. They're based in Brazil, and they got hit briefly when President Trump boosted the Brazilian tariffs from 10% to 50%. But then he exempted orange juice and aircraft components, so it took off again. ERJ has an amazing order backlog, very good, so it will be fine. But unfortunately, our relations with Brazil are not good. Lula da Silva and President Trump don't seem to get along. Lula da Silva thinks President Trump doesn't respect him. But Brazil has been actively campaigning to trade away from the U.S. dollar and use more of the Chinese yuan. Of course, China has invested a tremendous amount in Brazil. So the trade spat that we have with Brazil is probably going to last a long time, but at least President Trump exempted aircraft components from the 50% tariff.
Well, perfect. A lot to look forward to for the rest of this year. Thank you so much for giving us a recap. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But until then, we will see you all next week for a new video.